This is Strange Darling, directed by JT Mollner, who I learned, I don't know if it's half of his time, but a big chunk of his time is spent here in Las Vegas running haunted houses, which I guess is a family business of his. And he also directs movies on the side, writes movies. He wrote this, screenwriter and director, starring Willa Fitzgerald. I don't know what else she's been in. Do you?
I looked her up, but nothing really notable.
Okay. Kyle Gallner, he's been around for a long time. I've always liked him. He's always been very believable in roles. I think this is one of those that he just probably jumped on. Maybe he got lucky. Who knows? But what a fucking juicy character and role to be able to dive into and dig into. And I thought he fucking nailed this shit. It was really impressive what this guy accomplished, in my opinion, of course. It says this came out in 2023, but it, I guess, kind of had a limited run in theaters recently, which is obviously 2024, and had some good buzz around it. The cool thing about this movie for me was going into it and not knowing anything. I didn't look up a trailer, and I didn't really intentionally do that. I was just like, I've heard good things. I want to go check this out. It's an independent movie. I know it carried around a $4 million budget, which after seeing it is just next level impressive, considering how nice it looked and the pacing, everything was just completely on point. Set pieces, production design, all that good stuff. Really, really impressive. And $4 million, I'm assuming in today's money, if not, the last 15, 20 years, does not carry much weight as far as filming a movie goes, I've learned. But yeah, this was, for me, going into a movie, I want to make more of an effort. And I know we brought this up in other episodes, how I don't want to watch trailers before I see movies, because I do think it takes away a lot of the joy and surprise that comes with, just watching something blind as opposed to expecting certain things. But I had zero expectations here. And this one just fucking threw me for a loop in the best way possible. This is going to be a spoiler-filled conversation, because you can't talk about a movie like this without talking about the twists and turns and the unpredictability of it, and the random, unexpected stuff, at least for me, that happens. Two leads in this. I'll go ahead and start out with those. I just mentioned Gallner, Fitzgerald. I mean, if neither of these are nominated for an Academy Award, I would put these two performances up against anything else, bar none, that's come out this year. I thought they were both completely incredible in what they did.
Oh man, here we go.
Yeah, here we go. Uh-oh.
This fucking movie. Let's talk about it.
No.
Well, no, let's start from the top. It was really good, first of all.
Okay.
Of course it was a good movie. It's a great movie, not good, great movie. It starts out bad because actually it's funny, and this is important for me to know, and I don't know what it is. 30 minutes in, I was waiting. 45 minutes in, I was getting really frustrated. 1 hour in, I was moments away from turning it off in pure frustration of the gimmicky crap.
Okay, at what point was it in the story?
It's exactly 1 hour. I paused it. It was exactly 1 hour mark.
What was happening?
She opens the wallet and reveals the police officer badge.
Really? That was almost a turn-off moment for you.
Look, I knew they were doing something. It was just very frustrating. Now, it's funny. It was frustrating, but they're performing the roles well.
Yeah.
It went from probably a 5 or 6 to whatever I'm at right now, probably an 8 or 8+. Yeah, I'll just say that it was funny. I was getting really close to being like, I'm just not going to do this. And I gave it full attention. I sat on my couch and just watched it. Couldn't find it in theaters. Yeah, but no, really, really great. At past the 1 hour mark, I mean, tons of things to say. The females perform. It's unfair because, villains always get. You're never going to have a protagonist that you could probably name ever that's going to outshine any other role if they're the straight man. And as everyone knows, straight man doesn't mean gay or straight. It means just a normal guy. So, of course, she's always going to outshine, but they both deserve credit. You look back in the subtleties in, a lesser man would have taken advantage and really hurt her or raped her or something like that, or tried something, but he's a cop. Right, so he's still bound by morality. It was interesting because you saw a cop in an awkward situation off duty playing out that situation. And so he did that very convincingly. I'm a big fan of him. He was in Smile, obviously. He's going to be in the next Smile, which is going to suck. Massive dick. No chance it won't. She was just phenomenal. Just phenomenal performance from her. Yeah. I just feel bad because she's going to get all the praise, and I want to give him. He did a great job. Really? But again, it's just hard to outshine. How does Christian Bale outshine Heath Ledger? The answer is you won't, ever. You can't. You couldn't have played. There's no way Christian Bale could have played his role better, impossible, than Heath Ledger. But still, let's be fair. She murdered it. She just killed it.
Yeah.
Absolutely crushed it.
It's funny you bring that up. I would like to see a movie, and maybe there's one that exists that has such eccentric, outlandish characters, because obviously the Joker being one of the most notorious and famous with those traits, where you have the protagonist and the antagonist that are both extreme. Or could that ever work in a story structure or in a film? Probably not, because we're talking about Batman Joker, which is obviously opposite ends of the spectrum, but they are very similar if you know about that lore and that story. But yeah, the one cool thing I loved about this was obviously their twist and the fact that he did get a chance to kind of play that villain, but again, the subtleties were there. If you get to the point where there's obviously the twist, it turns it on its head, and then you look back and say, oh, okay, that all kind of makes sense. But yeah, he had some really, really good stuff to work with, I thought, from a story standpoint and a character standpoint, but obviously she gets the meat of whatever she wants to play with there. Yeah, everything she did. I mean, I love watching incredible performances. You know this, and I mean, it really will take me back to a movie, and I can't wait to watch this again, just to watch it just for these two actors and watch them just really completely embody these characters and do it so convincingly throughout the story. But her dying at the end, I think sometimes that's probably one of the more difficult things to do convincingly on camera, especially if you've got a lock, it's on your face, and you've got to go through this moment. It can be very standard, very boring, very run-of-the-mill. Obviously, she had probably some incredible coaching on what she was doing here from the director and who knows who else, but her choice here in that car and just how that played out, what would you say is a minute, maybe a little bit more, but just her gasping her last breaths. I just thought it was such a beautiful moment. I'll definitely revisit because I just think what she did was otherworldly and just really beyond impressive. So many actors are given that moment of, okay, you're taking your last breaths, and the decision you make as a performer to how do you do that convincingly, first of all, because you don't want it to be not passable, because I think it would be super obvious, because usually it's the lock on your face and then you've got your moment to pass on. I can't remember seeing a performance like this in that kind of situation where it was so long and so believable at the same time.
It's crazy how great she was. I've been listening to this guy, and everyone would know, anyone that ever listened to our podcast, his name is Critical Drinker. He's a Scottish guy. He's sarcastic and usually more critical than he is positive. Now, he gives positive stuff just like I do. My quote, I'm easily satisfied with the very best. So it's hard for me to always just rave, because I want to give the critical feedback, because things could always be better, right? Now, I don't want to take away from it, though, because it's still an excellent, like the performances are just, as you said, otherworldly. But it's just incredible. Like, there's just nothing better. Like, her performance was, who do you call it, who's cheated the Oscar for Psychopath? Gone Girl.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forget her name. She was cheated because she just killed it. And it's funny because I think about her and I think about this woman, and I'm like, what have you dated these women? Like,
you can struggle to put this in a genre, but the Rosamund Pike in Gone Girl, going back to that, those are the most terrifying movies to me, or seeing these people, these humans who definitely walk amongst us, people like this, and what they're capable of. And this is a perfect example of that.
The whole Me Too era, believe all women.
Yes.
There's like a term like toxic masculine. We have toxic positivity in this world right now. Just to the point of being...
I love that.
But you can be, manic.
Yes.
Right. Like, and it's too much. Right. And I feel like we're there. And so also there's the problem of believe all women. Yeah. Without evidence is dangerous. Kudos to the director and writer for when he calls the cop, the female cop, which I'd never called a woman this to her face ever. I rarely even reference it, but he calls her a dumb bitch, right? It's a good scene because, they could have handled that otherwise, but he did. He was like, you fucking, like, you played into this modern bullshit and look what you did to us.
That's
like,
right.
And he's like, you dumb bitch. And I was like, whoa, they're going to let that stand? I'm like, okay. Like, yeah, because if it was real life, you'd absolutely say that when you're like, now I might die. Because your dumbass put me in this situation.
Yeah, for sure. I'm really glad they brought that up too. And I think that's one thing I loved about this movie. It didn't try to be anything designed to appease modern thinking. You just used the word dangerously polite. We've become. I think you said that, right?
I said toxic positivity.
Toxic positivity. Yes, that's much better. But yeah, that's it. And this kind of turns that whole notion on its head. And I love it. Did you see the twists coming in this, or were you privy to it? Did you see a trailer? Did you read about it? Where did you stand with that stuff? Because there are quite a few. But obviously the editing and the story structure is such a big part of it, and that's something I want to revisit here in a second after you answer the question. Is the choice to lay this out in chapters but have them out of order. Anyways, sorry. My initial question, did you see any of these twists coming?
It's hard to actually got to think backwards. I'm not going to overcredit myself. I can only think of some things. I feel like I did know that she would be the bad person. I can't remember. I knew she had the bear spray in there. I knew she would get out, obviously. I knew she'd kill the cops, obviously. I knew the woman that ran away would not be the one to save them. I didn't know how they were going to wrap it up. I thought they were going to show her getting away, and then they'd show, off camera her final capture, not show her final death. I thought they kind of leave and she was still out there. Now, in the very beginning, they say she gets captured. I didn't think they'd show that. I thought they'd do the penultimate encounter here. So I didn't expect that. Had no idea he was the cop or, something like that or whatever. Yeah, that's all I can remember. What about you?
No, but in hindsight, I remember watching it, and it opens with the scene. He's chasing her, blows out the back window of her car. She flips it. I think she's driving a Pinto or something. Then she runs through the woods. She's wearing nurse scrubs. I think they're red. And she's going through the woods, obviously trying to get away from this guy with a shotgun. You don't know why. His name is the Devil. She is, what is her late lady? I think that's her character. So obviously he's the bad guy because he's called Devil. But then she hides behind this big tree, and she has a bottle of vodka stashed, I think, and some cigarettes or something like that. And she clearly knows what she's doing there. And the fact that she smokes a cigarette and this guy's chasing her, there's a I don't give a fuck or a fearless attitude there that is a big clue into who she truly is. The fact that she makes this decision to do that instead of be super panicky and try to hide and be legitimately terrified. Of course she's scared, but she's terrified in a different way. She still has an edge to her that makes sense as you watch the movie later on.
Now, see, that's interesting you say that. I noticed that scene too. And the first thing I thought was, classic military, no fires at night, no fire, because smoke, right? We're not, because you did. So I was thinking, why'd she do that? But then I don't agree. It's no, she thought it was going to end in the hotel room. How the hell did she know to drive down the road and her car would be flipped there to pick up she didn't know that.
No, yeah, there are definitely plot holes, and that's one. That's one I was going to bring up.
I think she just came across it. I think it was some homeless.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't pick up on that at all.
That's
I picked
fair.
up on when you find nudie magazines in the forest, which I actually did as a kid. I think every kid did something like that. I didn't pick up that. There's no way she would. She got stopped by the bullet, which made her run away directly from where she was at. There's no way she could have planned that.
That's right. But her decision to light the cigarette and smoke it and do her thing there was kind of a big clue in hindsight. Yeah, that's true. I wonder if in the Pacific Northwest, people actually hold up and live in these big trees. I'm sure they do. I didn't think about that. I guess it's sort of like a redwood or something. But anyway, sorry, back to what you were going to say.
No, yeah, you're right, because that scene I was like, why are your position will be so easy to give away? And I was like, yeah. And then I thought, well, what does she know? She doesn't know any better. So it was odd.
What'd you think about the hippie couple and that breakfast they made?
That's, I guess, let's go on the critiques, I guess. And why? Again, for me, every moment on film matters. Every single frame. You get 120 minutes to maybe define your entire existence, right? This is the thing you want your whole life. This could be your only shot in your whole life. They have the speakers talking about Bigfoot. I don't know where I do know they're going. It's a little bit of humor, a little bit of levity, a little bit of quirky, weird mountain people. And she even says you're weird mountain people. But it felt forced. It just felt forced.
On this, what were your biggest critiques about the movie?
I was thinking about this exact conversation. And I started thinking about ways to rationalize my argument, like everything. You're going to die, right? You're going to die. And a team of surgeons save your life. You go to the emergency room, a team of surgeons save your life. You wake up. You're in a coma after a month, whatever. You get out of it. You don't die. Matt doesn't die. Wow. You get your primary care doctor. They come around, take care of you. Here's the thing. There is an excellent chance you never meet the surgeons that saved your life, ever. Right? Very high probability. In fact, a surgeon got in trouble for this. He was signing people's names with his initials on their organs. Anyway, why am I mentioning this? There are tons of things that are worthy of such praise that don't need all the fucking pomp and circumstance. I can't stand movies. I hate the whole idea of titles and credits. I think it's stupid. Patently stupid. You ruin immersion. I didn't care about the 35 millimeter whatever. I don't care how you shot it, Giovanni Ribisi. I don't care about the title sequence that takes away from the main frame of her running across. I hate that stuff. I wish we could get rid of it. It's the only industry, video games a little bit, where you have to be introduced to the genius before you get into the actual art, right? Show me the art. If I care later, I'll look into you. I don't know why. It bothers me a lot. And this one went real hard with it, not on 35 millimeter, long credit shots, everyone directed, right? All that stuff. I'm like, just stop. I don't like that. I don't know why. For some reason, it just irks me. Go ahead.
Fair enough. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know enough about cinematography and DPs in general to really critique anything that's going on here, but I do know this. For me, it was really enjoyable to look at. I really enjoyed that scene where they were in the car having the conversation, just the blue light, the aesthetic there, the use of red throughout the movie. I thought his shots were really nice. I don't know if he's done any other work as a DP. Obviously, he has a shit ton of experience on set and as an actor, so he's been around these people for the majority of his life, which obviously lends to some sort of base there as far as being able to play off of. But yeah, I mean, he's getting a shit ton of praise. I think rightfully so. It was good. But I see what you're saying there. That's interesting. I've never looked at it that way. I think you know, that's why I love having these conversations with you, is you and I look at these things in completely different ways. But that would never be a critique of mine, ever.
Yeah, I thought about like everything. Like, I mean, I'm pacing by my piano. People know that pianos, Steinway pianos are the most expensive and beautiful pianos, and handcrafted still to this day, hundreds of thousands of dollars, like hundreds. There's $1 million Steinways. Now, yes, it says Steinway, so there goes my argument, kind of. But they do tell you who put it together, but you have to find it. It's like hidden in like the back. It doesn't say Steinway assembled by Matthew. That's not yours to take. This is my piano. Like I get it. Or BMW, or the Pagani Huaris, these massive supercars. It doesn't say engineered by, like, in your console, your center console.
Yeah.
Right. You'd be like, dude, don't put that. Like, I really do appreciate it. But those things are much mightier feats, than making a movie. Yeah. Right, or being a top surgeon or whatever. Any other thing. There's tons of things like that where you don't. You see a painting. Perfect example. There's a painting I really love, and I really want it really badly. My sister's an artist. She puts all of her signatures on the back of her paintings. It's a beautiful shot of a knight. There's a little bit of light on him, and he's a defeated knight, dead, obviously, and his armor is still there. And there's a little ray of light on him. There's foliage growing around him. And it's beautiful. It's, like the knight who did his last duty and is finally at rest. The bottom right corner, there's like a 10-inch author on the bottom right corner, right? Or the, not author, artist name. I emailed the guy and I'm like, dude, I am floored by your art. I think it's amazing. It's digital. So you can digitally do it and then put it on a canvas. I'm like, is there any way? And I mean, no disrespect to you. I was like, is there any way I could get this and have that, somewhere, credited somewhere else? I mean, really appreciate it. He got mad at me. Like, because he's like, I put all this work in, and I was like, okay. But like, it's so fucking pretentious. There are tons of amazing feats in this world without any credit needed. And if you really care, you find out after. You go into a movie, it's a black screen, and the next thing you see, instead of being like, boom, you're in Tolkien's world. Whoa, boom, Star Wars. Instead of being taken to the world, you're shown Lionsgate Entertainment, Warner Brothers Production, in association with. It's like, shut the fuck up, man. Why do I have 2 minutes of this shit? All right. Rant over, I promise.
Well, I mean, we are talking about a business that's based on self-congratulatory behavior, and there's no shortage of narcissism going on in Hollywood, safe to say. Whether that changes or not, I don't know, but I completely understand what you're saying with that whole thing. But the majority of people who pursue this shit, I would dare to say, are doing it because they want the attention. And that dopamine, the attention, is such a big factor in anything, in filming, putting yourself out there, being an actor, being probably even a director in some cases. In these studios, they want to make the bank. They need to be known. Like, I'm behind this. This is my stamp. This is no one else's. So, buy our product, which is stupid because no one really says, oh, that's a Warner Brothers movie. They must make all great movies. Of course not. That's not the way it is. Yeah, I get it. Maybe we'll get to the point as a species, as human beings, where we verge away from this sort of, constant need for attention and those kind of hits. But we're not there, man. I mean, if anything, it's at a higher point than it's ever been in human history with the good old social medias and all that nonsense. And everyone thinks they're a fucking celebrity. So, yeah, I don't know. But I get it. Does that kind of feed into what you were saying, in your opinion?
Yeah, no, and it does. And like I said, it's why I mention it, because I know we're not tired about film. We sometimes go beyond the industry or whatever, which is fine. And there was one movie my entire life I can think of. There was nothing until the movie was over, and then it shows the title. I forget what it was.
Okay.
It was nothing.
I love that.
It starts, and then it finishes with the title.
It's ballsy.
Amazing.
It's fucking ballsy, man. Especially now. You put so much energy and effort and money and time into these things, and what's your play? Say, hypothetically, Daniel spends $10 million or has somebody else's money and it's invested $10 million on your passion project, your movie. Where do you fold, or where do you compromise to make it more pleasing to the people who are potentially going to lose a shit ton of money on this, or they're going to make? Or are you just an artist outright? You're doing it how you're doing it. That's it. It's known from day one, and you're not compromising?
Well, to answer your question, this happens every day now. You'll see like a funny GIF or a funny meme, and it goes like to 100 million people. And in my experience, I have seen this, people never credit. They go on Twitter, they retweet it, they copy and paste it, they don't credit the person, they get pissed off about it. So that would be the argument that they want the credit. But I'm saying I have never seen a case where someone made a GIF, video, meme, cartoon, something funny, and you never find out the source. You do, right? Like, you know, you look in the comments section, something like that, you look it up, you research it, whatever. It's not like, yes, if you have it right there, then the brand is right there. Like, this is a Matthew production, then you see it right away. But people will figure it out. And again, this is the only industry that does.
Do you think as humans we need celebrities, or we need idols, I guess I should say?
The book I'll never finish when I write is called No More Heroes. And I've been thinking about a lot more, and I think time has shown us that we do need heroes and we do need role model celebrities. The problem is ones we have right now are just such bad examples of human beings.
Well, it's funny how that's evolved through time when you think back to who the celebrities were 200 years ago, right? Versus now. But yeah, you're right. I think we're at a low point. I think it's safe to say.
Yeah, and if you go like the circles that roll in, and this is true, I guess, in Roman times, which is very broad to say because I don't know exactly, but actors were looked at as prostitutes. They were looked at as the lowest of lows. It was Rome where you couldn't vote until you were 30. You weren't considered a man until you were 30. Like not even a man, which is great because, you know, it gives you a chance to like mature, blah, blah, blah. It was more built around, you know, how are you benefiting society? And the arts was, while important, and they definitely had it, was not like the centerpiece of everything. It was aqueducts and political. Now, of course, it all collapsed in the end. But
okay, so we talked about critiques. Do you have any other errors or critiques or things you would change about this, or just kind of nitpicky stuff about the film that you would change?
I'm always going to go backstory. Always going to go backstory. I want to know, and I know there's your argument. Not knowing is more interesting. Like, the more you can humanize the villain, the better the villain is, in my opinion. She's clearly a schizophrenic or something. She was clearly probably sexually and physically abused, we assume.
Right.
I wish we had a theme. And, you know, the writer-director might like cringe saying, you missed the theme. How could you miss it? The scene where she's talking about feeling love even for a moment was really great, right? Because you can tell she's so fucked up that that could be it. She's been sexually abused. It happens to a lot of women. It's horrible. Is children get exposed to sexuality too young, and they associate sexuality as love, and it's really dysfunctional and sad. I wish I had a little bit more meat on that. I would have loved a little bit more meat on that.
Yeah, I like the under-explaining there. And the fact that it makes it very clear that she can see the devil in people, according to her. I can't remember how that was brought up initially, but I thought that was really clever how they did that. And they do a flash of the devil character, and it's suggested that she saw devil in him at some point. Yeah, that was really good. Two things that bothered me a little bit. Just I feel like they could have made some adjustments and been a little more clever with this, was the killing at the end. Not the killing necessarily, but the cops, they get her, they come across the girl. Oh, she's, you know, the victim. Let's help her out, that sort of shit. But they didn't think to pat her down at least and find a gun on her. So she was put in the back of a cop car with a gun. They could have come up with a little more, I think, interesting angle to have her kill the cops versus just having a gun on her. And there's the bear spray. She sprayed him, right, all over the face and neck and everything, and then she takes a big chunk out of his neck, spits it out. I'm assuming if she ingested that at all, she would have been on the floor or poisoned or something would have happened. Just those two for me. That's it.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I didn't thought about that second one. It's a good point. The first is too, and they try to play it off by like, oh, it's such a hysterical moment. Come on, go. No time. You know, I had a pause if I forgot. Talking about cinematography. The shot where she jumps out of the hotel and runs to the other hotel was a great shot.
It really was, man. Some of the still camera work here was incredible. I don't know if you paid attention. There were a few, I think there were probably 3 scenes where there was no cut for, 3-4 minutes. They just kept it going. And, okay, not 35 millimeter, but again, I'm very novice in what I know about filmmaking, but I do know that it's pretty expensive to film on this shit, and you got to get that right in 2 or 3 takes tops. But the balls to go for that is pretty awesome. And I would love to know if JT Mollner, the director-writer, if he wrote this like it was represented in out of order chapters, or if he just wrote a sequential story and then they decided to break it up to make it more interesting. It's sort of like, I feel like they did this with Crash back in the day. It was out of order. Memento, obviously. And the rewatchability of these is kind of questionable because the twist and the order of the story is such a big part of the entertainment, at least for me. But I'd love to know if he wrote this like it was represented.
I want to get my hands on screenplays.
Yeah.
It's always great when you read screenplays. Like, I'll give you one that's really shock you. Read the screenplay for Wedding Crashers. It is not very funny at all. It's written by a lawyer, you can tell, which is why he chose them to be lawyers. The humor gets way too deep and like intellectual. But yeah, like, it's funny when you read screenplays and stuff. You're like, wait, that's what it's supposed to happen? Interesting.
They're usually pretty easy too. You can bust out a good screenplay in about 2 hours, which I think is really cool.
Only other funny little one I had, and it's funny because I actually don't want this in films overall, but I'm still going to say it because I got to be objective. Look, go big or go home with the nudity, please. No one sits around in their bra and panties when they're that level. Just go topless. Come on.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, all horror movies. You and I both, like, everyone watched Friday the 13th because obvious reasons.
Well,
you're going to show me someone get mutilated? Well, fine. Show me some tits. Come on.
Man. It's crazy, like, the level of violence they're willing to represent on stuff and not edit out on probably regular television, but a few bad words and some nudity, you can't do it. It's interesting. Maybe Fitzgerald had something in her contract, or has something in just her contracts in general with performing, that she won't do nude. I mean, you wouldn't want to lose an actor of this caliber for something like that, so you roll with it. Who knows?
Where's she from?
Willa Fitzgerald? Let's see. I don't know. I got the IMDb app right now. She is Tennessee. Nashville. Look at that.
Nashville, Tennessee.
Holy shit. You're stomping grounds. Yeah, she born in Nashville. Native to Nashville. BA in theater studies from Yale. Okay. So she's taking this pretty seriously, and it's paid off. Good for her. That's cool, man. Yeah, be on the lookout for that one. All right, literally, man, like this for me was, it was the most enjoyable experience I've had in a movie theater that I can remember since well before COVID. I love this. I thought it was just so entertaining. The pacing was amazing. For me, there was no wasted space. I didn't find that. It was all just beautiful. I didn't mind the opening. I get it. The running through the field, slowed down. It's kind of a slow build up in my mind of what's going to happen. I mean, you get it. It really establishes that she's being chased. She's presumably a victim. But after that, it just took off and didn't stop. And I was completely entertained. After this, it gave me hope for going to the movies and independent cinema, all that stuff. I really hope to see more and more stuff like this because it's inspiring. It really is.
We will, and I only reference guy because I've probably been listening. I'm way too much critical drinker guy. He does movies and interestingly video games. And to let you know, because I know you're not like too into video game or too tuned into it, there's a massive collapse happening right now. Right. There's a massive collapse of the AAA, which means Hollywood. Mm-hmm. The AAA gaming industry is collapsing, and the indie scene and AA is emerging way more. Now, it has been for about a decade, but it's becoming more and more apparent. You're seeing more AA games become AAA quality. So I mentioned that because you'll see it with movies. AI will help. Like, everyone likes to cope and say, 10 years. I have it at home. I have Stable Diffusion on my computer right now. I can make some pretty incredible concept art, like pretty freaking incredible. And I used to work on video games, and making concept art is expensive and requires teams. And the movie stuff they're doing now, we're not far away from it. Like, I'm excited to see what people can produce without the, handcuffs of being in LA with all the resources and the budget.
You don't need it, man. And the cool thing now I've been reading and learning more about is theater chains are more and more open to making deals with independent filmmakers and saying, hey, you take half the gate. Let's put this on a few screens with AMC Regal, like the big boys. And I think, it's exciting to see what young upstart, not even young, just artists who haven't really had a chance to show themselves can potentially do now. You and me included, man. We're in an unprecedented time right now. You don't need Hollywood as your backbone or to prop you up. You really don't. And that's such a refreshing thing to know. And I really hope that trend continues because fuck those big boys. God knows we can go off on tangent about that whole charade. It's really cool to see something like this, and it's cool to support it, and I'll continue to do so. All right, why don't you head into it, giving it a score?
Yeah, we still got to refine this. Maybe next time we'll talk about it again. Yeah. 2.5 out of 3 stars, which means excellent. Yes. And if it's in the theaters, absolutely go watch it.
Okay. I'm on the up. One of my first thoughts when I left this movie was I want to own this movie. I want to own a Blu-ray, whatever of it. So 3 all the way. Can't beat it. Little flaws. There are going to be flaws in everything. For me, it was completely stellar. I loved it. It was why I go to the movies, and I can't wait to see more like this. I'll buy the Blu-ray when it comes out. I hope it's soon.